Awesome. So, welcome once again to our health talk. Every single Tuesday for the last 9 months or so, we have actually had a different topic every Tuesday. So, as I'm going through this particular topic today with you, if there's a specific topic you'd like us to cover for future um, presentations like this, if it's not a part of our recorded or recorded health talks, feel free to shoot me a message. You can put it in the comments here. Most some of you have my social media pages, so you can actually send a message that way. But of course, we do have a private Facebook group exclusively for all of our health enthusiasts like yourself, that we can have the recordings there, as well as if you have questions, we can try to address them there as well. And so that's by invitation only. As if you'd like to be a part of that, you can reach out to the person who invited you to be part of this health talk so that we can extend an invitation to you. So today's topic is going to be on sepsis. May I ask whoever is on, just double check your phone to make sure that you're on mute. I would appreciate that. Thank you so, so much. I'm just going to actually share my slide here with you. Here we go. To share. Just let me know once I share this if you can actually see the screen. And I will just give me one quick second here. For some reason it's giving me a little challenge to share. Okay, here we go. Excuse me. Right, now we can share. Sometimes with the Zoom, I might have some challenges at times, but you go through the challenge, you show up on the other side, of course, right? So if you can see the screen, put a 1 in the chat for me. I would appreciate that to get your feedback. Just to make sure that you can see the slides. Okay, I'm assuming you can see. Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate that. So as we go through this topic, and the reason I'm sharing this with you is that at one point, for some reason my screen just disappeared. Give me one second. Can you, hopefully you can still see my screen. If not, just put in the comments if you can't. One of the reasons why this is so important to me, so one of the things that we sort of experience is that my mother did not get sepsis in the hospital, but we've heard of so many horror stories where people actually developed sepsis in the hospital when they were admitted for another issue, another health condition. And so my mother was admitted to the hospital twice, once when she had her first stroke many years before, and then she had another stroke 5 years later, stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks, and that was in the height of COVID. So I was able to see her every day, but of course that was something for me that I was of concern. And imagine those individuals who don't have family or friends to see them every single day, so that can be a major concern as well. And we've had a few friends come back and tell us that, someone was admitted for example, diabetes related issue, and then unfortunately they developed sepsis separate from what was happening to them and they passed away. So just to be a bit mindful of the things that are happening to you or with you or someone you know, and we've heard stories, just sort of educate yourself. So this topic we have it covers many different things and not just sepsis. They actually conditions that can actually be connected to sepsis, like infections and so forth. So as I go through the slides here, sorry, I'm just going to go through the next page, is what is sepsis? So sepsis occurs when an infection triggers a chain reaction in the body. So causing the immune system, which is very important, the immune system to damage its own tissues and organs. So there's a breakdown. And so it is a medical emergency that can quickly lead to organ failure and death if not treated promptly. And this is something so that we can sort of be mindful of. So knowing the facts, being aware, I consider us like we're our own doctors, so to speak, not for to be prescribing medication, of course, but to be more aware of what you're going through. Now, for myself and my husband, as we mentioned, we're health enthusiasts. We're not health practitioners, but we've become passionate about health, wanting to be proactive about our own health, our family. We've gone through many health scares with our family members. You know, my brother-in-law, my brother, my mother, my stepmom in a short span of time. And these things sort of happen not related to sepsis, but if you know better, you do better. When you're more educated and you do the actual homework to sort of get the right information, because you can go on Google and you can search random stuff. But what I want to share with you are credible sites. Like, for example, PubMed.gov is a public medical library. I go to Harvard, I go to Yale, I go to John Hopkins. Something like go to Mayo Clinic, and these are all studies or findings by people in there who are considered experts in their field. So sepsis or septicemia is a life-threatening complication of infection. And so according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, sepsis is the body's overwhelming and life-threatening response to an infection, which can cause or lead to cause of tissue damage, organ failure, and unfortunately death. So there are many things that can trigger it. One could be a toxic response. It could be severe, it could be mild. But we also sometimes with the indicators or signs, it can be missed. So the cause of sepsis, we can actually think of sepsis as a silent killer, especially if we're not mindful of what's happening to our body. And of course, you can't articulate that, maybe not be able to speak if you're in a dire situation, or it could have been misdiagnosed or missed. So the cause of sepsis, any type of infection can lead to sepsis, so including bacterial, viral, fungal infection. So common sources include infection of the skin, lungs like pneumonia, or urinary tract. And that can happen as well. So what are the symptoms? How do we spot them? Well, when you recognize the signs of sepsis, it's all about time or timing. So if your temperature is higher or lower than normal, infection signs of or symptoms, mental decline, and so forth, extremely ill. So if you're thinking of some of the indicators, and sometimes you may have similar symptoms that are not related to sepsis, but at least you can keep either a mental note or write down or speak to someone about how you're feeling so you can articulate what you're going through, what you're experiencing to the best of your ability. Now, the sepsis itself, under the acronym sepsis, it's basically shivering, fever, or very cold, extreme pain or discomfort. Pale, discolored, clammy, or sweaty skin, sleepiness, confusion, disorientation, feeling like you might die. For example, you have a high heart rate or weak pulse, shortness of breath. So that's the definition of sepsis. So how do we pay attention to or know the signs or the symptoms of sepsis? So we know that as we go through, as you come on the bottom, I actually put some source of where I get the source of information from. It can range from low to moderate to severe. And that can actually happen in a flash. It can happen very slow progression or extremely rapid decline in your health, especially when there's a case of organ failure leaning towards death, unfortunately. So patients and family members also play a role in the sepsis prevention. And I'll explain to you what those type of roles are or what to be mindful of. But the four ways to get ahead of sepsis is to, for one, of course, practice good hygiene. Washing hands often, ensuring wounds are covered with a clean, dry damage until healed. So, for a perfect example, if someone's diabetic and they have actually had a scratch or a nick on their skin, and it festers into a wound. That's one of the symptoms where I can actually say, okay, this would be something to be alarmed about, to be able to speak to the doctor, even if you don't have an actual physical appointment, but explain the symptoms so that you can prevent further infection, which can lead to sepsis. So making sure that that person, if you're caring for the person or you want to speak to the person, have them be mindful of that. Or if you have a friend or family member who's going through this, you can articulate that to them as a concern. So preventing infections by managing chronic conditions, as I mentioned, like diabetes or other types of conditions that you may have. or may know of someone who has, getting recommended vaccines if that's the direction you want to move to prevent infections, and lowering sepsis risk. This is a situation which becomes an emergency. So knowing the signs and symptoms of sepsis and acting fast, because sepsis is always a medical emergency. Do not delay on that. As even though I'm not a practitioner in the health field, knowing that we can be proactive with our health, especially if you consider yourself like me and like myself and my husband as health enthusiasts, being passionate, being proactive, this is something that you can actually take ownership of. So how does sepsis affect the body? Well, you have things like feeling strangely unwell, worsening symptoms during treatment for an infection if you've been diagnosed with some sort of infection that you may have, fever, shaking, chills, confused, reduced mental alertness, I mentioned that before, and nausea, like a prolonged bout of nausea, vomiting, uncontrolled, like how am I vomiting? It's like you're not sure what's causing it or triggering that. Diarrhea can happen as well. Low blood pressure can happen when you're going through the sepsis stage. Weakened kidneys or liver function, which you may not be aware of because it's on the internal part of your body, but at least the main parts that are actually visible to you that you're experiencing, you can actually articulate that to the person who will assist you through the medical system. So there are many areas that can impact you if you have been diagnosed or you think you may have symptoms such as what I mentioned before for under the term sepsis. So anywhere from bacteria to inflammation impacting certain parts of your certain organs, organ failure overall, lungs, heart, kidneys, liver, and all of these things can actually go basically be a rapid succession of different failures of the organs, of your organs being impacted, and of course things like your circulation and so forth. What are the stages of sepsis? Well, the first stage is infection, inflammatory response, organ impairment. That's stage 1. Stage 2 is a low blood pressure, reduced blood flow, oxygen deprivation, lactic acidosis, severely reduced blood flow. Just put a pin in that. There's actually, I think on Amazon or other types of website, you can actually have an oxygen reader that you put on your finger, and you can actually gauge your oxygen level in your body, which is not expensive to get, especially if you have someone you're caring for at home or someone who's elderly. That'd be a good investment, not too expensive, that you can actually not only check their blood pressure if you have a blood pressure device at home, or if they're diabetic, but also check their oxygen level, which is super important as well. That you can actually provide that information as detailed as you can to the health practitioner who is part of either your family doctor or someone that you're going to through a walking clinic. Stage 3 is septic shock. So blood vessels, dilation, and leaky capillaries. So compromise your cardiac output, decreased blood volume, organ failure, and unfortunately, stage 3 can lead to death. So what are the symptoms? We have different symptoms in children versus adults. So in children, and of course, they may not be able to articulate because they may be going through these moments of these symptoms, but not able to tell you, well, mom, dad, auntie, uncle, this is what I'm feeling. So they sort of get confused, they can't articulate, especially if they're of age where they're starting to speak. So a child may have sepsis if he or she is breathing very fast, has a fit or convulsion, looks mottled, bluish, or pale, has a rash that does not fade when you press on it, it's very lethargic or difficult to wake up, feels abnormally cold to touch. That's a symptom of children. Symptoms in adults could range anywhere from slurred speech or confusion. And sometimes you may have someone who's had a stroke, and that could actually be more severe than a stroke, could even be going through sepsis symptoms. Extreme shivering or muscle pain, passing no urine for the whole day, severe breathlessness, continuously feeling that way. It feels like you're going to die, and skin mottled or discoloration or discolored. So these are some of the variation between a child having being you think may have sepsis if they haven't been diagnosed as yet versus an adult. So some of the things that you're looking at could be the skin discoloration in children, the patches, different places. Don't mistake this. Some people may have rosacea, they may have blotches making happen because they may have a different type of viral infection that can cause the blotchiness. Some people may have maybe go through menopause, and some people who go through menopause, they get similar blotchy skin, patches of redness can happen, different symptoms, but when you put two and two together, so to speak, of checklists of what you're going through, you can narrow it down that you may possibly have signs of sepsis versus other conditions that you have been diagnosed with. So another part as well is to consider your mouth, your tooth, your gums, your dental care. So an indicator that you could have symptoms of sepsis. Um, Most people who have a tooth ache is a typical toothache. But if you're thinking of someone who have beyond just a typical toothache, dental sepsis manifestation as a systematic illness, not only is it impacting your gums, your teeth, it's actually affecting your entire body because they're all connected, right? So individuals with dental sepsis may experience fevers, chills associated with the dental issue that you're having with your toothache, rapid heartbeat, difficulty breathing. As the infection progresses, symptoms intensify. So your vital organs become compromised, leading to a life-threatening situation. But there are certain things you can actually do to identify. So you can speak to your doctor. Of course, you have your dentist, and they normally, if you're seeing a dentist for a toothache, they'll be able to tell you, well, it's not just a toothache. There could be other things as well that are associated with that. So what are the signs of sepsis from a tooth infection? So one thing you can be mindful of, you can do your own self-assessment before you speak to someone because you can able to articulate what you're experiencing so that they can give you a better diagnosis and of course lead to the best option as a treatment because doctors are taught an educated guess as to what kind of medication they can give you if that's the direction you want to go. And if there are other treatments you can do that are natural, of course, always seek professional advice from a practitioner so you can actually sort of eliminate some of the things that you may or may not have so they can get a pinpoint as to how to treat you, especially in an emergency situation. So check for signs of infection, inspect your teeth and gums for signs of infection, such as swelling, redness, pus. Some people may get an abscess in their mouth, may not be related to sepsis, but still pay attention to that. Monitor vital signs and measure your temperature, heart rate, blood pressure, so forth, and note any abnormalities or persistent changes. So if it keeps recurring or it's ongoing and there's no relief, these are the signs as well. Assess your symptoms. So pay attention to the symptoms like fever, difficulty breathing, confusion, and I mentioned before, decreased urine output. Seek prompt medical attention. Do not delay, do not sit on it, don't go to bed thinking that you may feel better the next day. It's better to check yourself, that's an emergency situation in the hospital if you have been diagnosed with that, if you're not in the hospital, so that they can eliminate or be able to provide the right assistance to you. But again, do not procrastinate or delay on things that may be life-threatening to you. So some of the things that a tooth infection can cause, in addition to bad breath or bitter taste in the mouth, you can actually have persistent fever. So the persistent fever can be, most of us can say, well, you know what, I have a virus, a 24-hour virus, a bug, and they're doing a self-assessment. But there's certain things you need to look out for. So a persistent fever, especially one that doesn't respond over-the-counter medication, is one indicator. Severe infection, including sepsis, can sort of give you that as an indicator. And so pay attention to that. And what's happening basically is that the elevated body temperature is signaling to tell you that your immune system response is trying to fight with harmful bacteria. So your bloodstream is actually, you're having a little war happening internally. And this is some of the things externally that you're experiencing, like a high body temperature. Rapid heartbeat, so abnormal rapid heartbeat happening ongoing. It's a common symptom. as the body attempts to fight off infection. The heart pumps faster to distribute oxygen and nutrients to vital organs. So it's trying to sort of correct the issue that's happening internally. But of course, if you're diagnosed with, or you think it's sepsis, starting from, of course, some of the things you're going through, then these are some of the indicators as well. Difficulty breathing is another one. Shortness of breath is a red flag for sepsis. An infection progresses, it can impair your lung. So starting from the mouth as an indicator, because it's happening internally from the mouth, going to the rest of your organs. So it may not even start from the mouth, but could be just as an indicator, could be one thing. For example, if you're having a pus or other things happening in your mouth or your gums. So an infection progresses, it can impair different things, including respiratory distress. So confusion, as I mentioned before, can happen. So it can affect cognitive function, causing confusion, disorientation, altered consciousness. So these neurological symptoms are often overlooked, but signify a critical deterioration in the health. So you may not think, okay, the mouth or the gums or the teeth, there's no connection, but there is. So you expecting, especially if you wear dentures or partial dentures, pay attention to what's happening with your mouth. Because at times people will say, okay, if I have dentures or partial dentures, breath can happen because bacteria is captured between the gums and the partial or full dentures. That's a given. It can happen, especially when food is stored there. Now, in addition to that, you may say, okay, bad breath can happen. I'm drinking coffee, other things can happen, but pay attention to the other symptoms like bitter taste in the mouth. And then as you're doing all of this, mention that to someone in your family or friend. And then if you have the persistent fever, pain, and so forth, then you also know these are key indicators. Sensitivity of the teeth or to hot or cold could be another thing as well. And hypotension, if you have low blood pressure, no, I'm on the low side, you may be on the high side, but if you have low blood pressure, you normally have normal blood pressure or high, and it dips, it goes really low, that's an indicator as well. So sepsis can cause a dangerous drop in the blood pressure, so it's called hypotension. So this is due to widespread inflammation and impaired circulation. So the body's sort of trying to sort of repair itself, but it's fighting against itself because of all these things are happening. Your pressure's dipping, all of these things are happening, and then here comes inflammation and impaired circulation. So low blood pressure deprives your vital organs of oxygen and nutrients, leading to organ failure if left untreated. So again, please, please, please pay attention to if this is happening or has happened in the past, or someone that you know, or if you may know someone who's going through this right now, but at least uh, thankfully you're all in great health. Or if you're not, and there's things to look out for, these are things to be mindful of. So what can cause sepsis in children? Now, we spoke about adults, we spoke about the comparison with children and adults, but here's some additional information. So to the left, under the where it says sepsis in children, I found a PubMed study all on the cause of sepsis in children. So children are born mostly in the hospital, they're kept, they can be exposed to bacteria, viruses, viral infections in the hospital. It can happen. Everyone's caring for people, cross sort of not contamination, but basically, yeah, transfer of different things can happen if the people are coming to visit or things like that. Things can happen where this can be a serious situation. So according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, most cases of sepsis are due to bacterial infection. So sepsis can also occur in response to a viral or fungal or parasitic infection. There's actually a study that was done, this is through the PubMed, that notes that the most cases of sepsis stems from an infection of the respiratory tract and bloodstream. So children below the age of 1 are basically increased risk of developing sepsis. As I mentioned, newborns and so forth, or coming back for care through the emergency situation through the hospital for other reasons. This is something to be mindful of. Children who were born premature are more susceptible to getting sepsis if exposed. Or their mothers, their biological mothers can have an infection while pregnant and pass on to the child, the fetus, and then birth. So what are the things you need to look out for in a child who have certain symptoms or signs to determine, okay, this could be possibly sepsis. So fever in the last 24 hours, unusually cold to the touch, breathing very fast, has a rash that doesn't fade when pressed, similar to, as I mentioned before, has mottled or bluish or pale skin, has a fit convulsion. I'm repeating this back to you because repetition is key, and very lethargic or difficult to breathe. Now, as kids have colds, flu, viral infection, 24-hour bug, especially if they're going to school, exposed to other children, certain circumstances, some can say, okay, it's just a passing flu. But if it's persistent, and this is happening with all these um, circumstances or symptoms, there's no one sign of sepsis, right? So pay attention to that, keep in the back of your mind. I mean, don't get anxious, stay calm, but of course, these are things that when you go to have your child looked at by your health practitioner, you can mention all of these things because you're keeping track of that, whether by your phone or a paper or a mental note. So there is actually life after sepsis. So what would you consider life after sepsis? Well, of course, you have to think of your physical body, your mental state, because any condition you may have been diagnosed with, anything that you may have a health impacts your health can impact your mental health and not only your physical health. So these not just you actually walk away thankfully from you recovered from sepsis, but there's actually lingering impact on your health both physically and mentally. So although sepsis is serious, most people recover from mild sepsis. Recovery is also possible with severe sepsis if basically treated right away. Unfortunately, about 30% of people diagnosed with severe sepsis do not survive. That's an unfortunate stat. Among those who survive, about 50% deal with long-term effects of the illness. No one really speaks about that. You've been diagnosed, you had sepsis, you're treated, and then you go home. But then there are lingering things, like, for example, insomnia can happen, muscle or joint pain can happen, fatigue. Sometimes chronic fatigue can develop from this condition. Decreased cognitive function impacting your mental state, your brain, and poor concentration. So because it takes time for the immune system to strengthen after sepsis, or even a simple cold, imagine sepsis, and you actually may have a longer journey to repairing and restoring or improving your immune system. There's also the risk of recurrence of sepsis if not treated correctly or on time. So be mindful of signs of a setback and contact your doctor right away. Do not delay, do not put it off for a week or two. If you feel it's sort of off, if you've been someone who've had it before and they're telling you all these signs, encourage them or you go with them to have it looked at to make sure that they can rule that out. So if you're not feeling well, take the necessary action to be proactive and to be able to do what you need to do. Now, in addition to all of that I'm sharing with you, we have to, of course, your mindset, your body, you need to rebuild your body. So if you're rebuilding your body, rebuilding your immune system, your mental state, your cognition, we would eat certain foods to improve our body's ability to heal itself. We're eating food to provide as a fuel, as a source for the energy. But most of the foods on the planet are heavily depleted because of the soil. And most of the foods we eat, we don't eat in enough quantity to get all the nutrients we need. So consider if you are recovering from sepsis or you're not hopefully never get sepsis, but you want to be able to support your immune system more more effectively. Consider superfoods. I love different things like pumpkin seeds and blueberries. Those are my go-to things. I swear I must have been born in Canada in another life because I love all these North American foods, and in addition to the Caribbean foods. I'm from the Caribbean. But I've actually discovered this amazing mushroom called reishi. And so there's different types of superfoods like spirulina, aloe vera, bee pollen, and so much more. But according to the hierarchy of all superfoods on the planet, not by myself, but by different studies, because it's over 3,000 case studies just from PubMed.gov, which is a public medical library, which are peer-to-peer studies. reishi is on the number one. And then we see it in different levels of in the way of superiority, so to speak, of the impact, the amount of antioxidants, nutrients, minerals, and so forth that are in densely impact in these superfoods. So you're consuming your food for energy, but also you're consuming an additional superfood to help with your body to support itself. And what does that mean? Well, we've heard of turmeric, we've heard of ginseng, we've heard of, lion's mane. Most of us have probiotics, prebiotics. We've heard of, different things like ginkgo biloba, if I said it correctly. All these nutrients that we know are good for us, but there's some of the individuals who are taking medication, you are not able to simply take a superfood as a therapeutic dosage. So, for example, my mother, when she had a second stroke, I know that turmeric's really good for anti-inflammatory properties. I know because in that case, I say, let me just try doing that. But I consulted with a pharmacist because they study natural medicine. So I asked the question, same location where her meds were kept, her blister pack of medication because she's diabetic with different type of other health conditions related to diabetes. I says, can I use turmeric? No, you can't because she had a beta block for her heart. Can I use ginkgo biloba? No, you can't. It impacts that. Can I use? I think it was turmeric, ginkgo biloba, and another one. And all three, they told me no. And I asked, can I use reishi? What's that? Candida lucidum, that's the Western name. Well, yeah, she can because it's considered a food supplement. So there's no negative interaction with any medication on the planet so thus far. So not only is it helping, and this is one of my go-to, I've only heard about this in the last 14 years, and I'm so excited to be able to share this with you. Your body needs a lot of antioxidants to get the right type of nutrients. It needs the right type of nutrients performed at its optimal best. So there are many health benefits you can consider if you want to consider adding a superfood to your dietary plan. Here's a perfect example. I love cinnamon, but you need about 11 sticks of, you need basically, think of in comparison, a single dose of Candida lucidum, or we call it reishi, you get 150 antioxidants versus you get 11 antioxidants from cinnamon. Now, you see 2 sticks of cinnamon there. Normally, we go for a half a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon if you're making something like porridge or you're putting it in your food you're making with your rice or whatever you want to do. But how much of antioxidants are you getting? Not much for the body to be able to perform the way it's meant to. You need 54, you need actually 50 in order to get the green tea, which has a lot of antioxidants. You only get 54 antioxidants compared to 150. And this comparison, with like, for example, broccoli, you get seven of those broccoli stems to get 150 antioxidants. So I can't eat seven heads of broccoli. I don't know about you, maybe you can, but I can't. So this is an example of a comparison. So what makes up medicinal mushroom? Well, they're higher in nutraceutical properties, low in calories and fat. They're very rich in sources of nutrients as bioactive compounds such as carbohydrates, protein, fiber, vitamins, and all the great things you need to be able to help your body treat many ailments. And these are all through PubMed studies as well. So we all know foods. There's antioxidants, terpenoids, flavonoids. Every part of what you're eating benefits your body. So when you're eating healthy, making healthier choices, you can actually protect your brain, your gut, your body, your bones, your organs. All of the good things that you consume will help that, but in the quantity you need to may be lacking because you're not eating enough of or getting enough of the nutrients you need to be able to help your body sort of repair itself. So I fell in love with, and my husband as well, fell in love with this amazing mushroom. Now, just to give you an idea, put things into context, Ganda lucidum, or reishi is called, is very bitter. If you brew it into a tincture and drink it as such, it's really good, but it's very bitter. Now, if you're like me, I don't do bitter. I'm more of a sweet person. But there are ways you can consume it without getting the bitterness or the harshness of it and still get the benefits, and I'll share that with you in a sec. So what does that do? Well, one of the things I'm going to outline here are some of the factual information I've gotten through incredible sites. So at the bottom of that page, you'll see where the source is from, and you can capture the numbers, you can type it in, and you can just do further reading on that. So I spoke about your immune system. So Ganadum improves the autoimmune function. It also helps with providing your body with several antioxidants. So that you normally get vitamin C, D, E, and so forth, isoflavonoids, iso isoflavones, and flavonoids. And also it has many other components. I'm just going to name a few. In addition to helping your body getting the antioxidant it needs, the body itself, when it's stressed, when it's under attack, so to speak, because you have a health scare or a health, something impacting your health in a negative way, oxidative stress goes up. That means you have a greater chance of having an illness, or once you're going through an illness, oxidative stress increases. So when you're taking in the right amount of antioxidant, it lowers that. And I'm going to go back, as you can see, the bottom part of this screen, antioxidant on the left, free radicals on the right. Basically, if it's oxidative stress is out not balanced, then this is where things happen, where you have dis-ease. So it actually acts as a anti-inflammatory effect. So it helps actually to calm down the central nervous system. It actually helps with many of the things like your nerve regeneration, helps with neuroprotection. We talked about the brain. Also helps with cognitive impairment. I mentioned about that. That can happen if have been diagnosed with sepsis. And so if your neurons or neurological disorder happens because of all of this, it actually acts as a protector. So not only that as well, I mentioned before some of the symptoms you can have after you've been treated for sepsis, like for example, insomnia. This superfood helps with insomnia. If you also experience heart palpitations when you're going through sepsis, and we talk about the heart racing and so forth, this actually helps to calm down or actually eliminate the palpitations. You don't experience that. Another thing as well is, I mentioned before, is most people, depending on the situation you have, you may develop insomnia over time, but also you may have broken sleep. So what it does, it actually helps to get your body into sort of like a rhythmic way when you're sleeping. So it helps you with your sleeping time, your REM state, your light sleep time. Now, the actual Ganoderma has many properties, but I want to mention to you a couple of things as well. When we go through our seasons of life, we have different challenges, right? So think of Ganoderma as an adaptogen. You consume it, it actually you have in your system, in your body, and it actually helps your body to become more pH balanced, more in a homeostasis state. We mentioned before about cardiac, where certain organs can be impacted if you have been diagnosed with sepsis, respiratory, your lungs, so to speak, your liver, your heart, and other things as well. Well, this actual kind of helps with if you've been diagnosed with a cognitive cardiovascular condition in helping the heart, not only for inflammation and other things, but also I mentioned about oxidative stress. So it acts like a signal transduction. So it sort of signals gives off what it needs in order to, as we call it, an adaptogen. So Ganadum as well protects the gut. So we get a lot of inflammation, especially in the gut-brain axis. So it protects against the gut inflammation and sepsis. So Ganadum itself, not only it is protecting your organs, not only is it protecting your overall well-being, it actually helps especially with the gut, because we can say, okay, the gut can be one of the most sensitive area of the body, especially if you've been diagnosed with a gut issue, inflammation when you're going through the sepsis issue. So it actually helps in protecting for anyone who's been has an induced cardiac dysfunction. if they have been diagnosed with sepsis. It helps to regulate the inflammatory response and many other things. So as we go through, or if someone's going through sepsis, sorry, they may have a severe immune issue, like an infection, for example, which may actually impact your mortality. So when we target inflammation, oxidative stress, and also improving the outcome for advanced sepsis management, you actually can consider this as an add-on or a supplement, or you can speak to a nutritionist, sorry, as well, to help you with your nutrition plan, your dietary plan as well. Now, when you're consuming Ganoderma, there's also other mushroom you can consider, for example, like cordyceps or lion's mane, which I'll explain to you in just a moment. The sepsis itself can impact, I mentioned different organs, but one of the main things that it sort of impacts first, in most cases, could be your spleen, your kidney, your respiratory, your lungs. And so what this actual cannabis does, it protects the organs, not just from, for example, you may be diagnosed with sepsis, but also if you've had a traumatic experience where you have an organ injury. So, consuming therapeutic dosage of the Ganoderma, which has a high level of polysaccharides, peptides, for example, can help to target certain things. So, for example, inflammation, as I mentioned before, and reducing organ injury. The ability to consume this can be as easy as a simple beverage, which I can share with you in just a second. So, not only is it going to help you with supporting your immune system, it actually reduces bacterial load. So if you have a bacterial infection, it reduces that, alleviates it. If you have been told that your organs have been damaged, it can help with mitigating that. Inflammatory indicators can actually reduce that. But not only for sepsis, but many other things as well. I had mentioned before cordyceps. There's actually a protection against lethal effects of sepsis has been known and linked to consuming cordyceps. So what that is actually, it acts as a gut barrier. It protects the effects of anything that's sort of linked to inducing of the sepsis and also promoting proliferations and also inhibiting certain things like your intestinal cells. So if you're looking at ways of overall well-being, I love this because not only is it, as I mentioned, adaptogen, it actually goes into the area of your body that it needs the support to support, that you're consuming something you're able to benefit long term because it's considered longevity. That's a longevity mushroom because it's considered a medicinal mushroom. We call it the spirituality mushroom because it actually helps with longevity. It's a little thing we say. So cordyceps itself helps, as it also helps with providing you with the right amount of antioxidants, also anti-inflammatory, has many other things that are beneficial to your body. It enhances your healthy energy. We talked about being fatigued post your sepsis care. And also it helps with your stamina, endurance, or your energy level overall. And it also supports physical performance and so forth, not just organ dysfunction, protecting metabolic changes, because things can happen where everything changes because you've been diagnosed with sepsis. So your immune system is also one of the main things that triggers everything else. So be mindful of that as well. So we know that some sepsis drugs have side effects like all drugs do. So what happens is if you're consuming a medication for sepsis with other negative side effects, consuming cordyceps either with what you've been given, that's a choice, of course, or on its own, think of you giving the body what it needs in the way of a supplement, in a food supplement, as well as medicinal. So it will lower the inflammation and also modulate the immune system to balance everything out. Lion's mane is the last thing I want to mention to you, which is one of the three mushrooms I actually have fallen in love with. That helps mainly with the brain function. So your cognition, stress, your mood, your mental energy. As I mentioned, you've been diagnosed with a condition. it impacts you mentally. You know, if you've been diagnosed, sometimes you might have a sense of hopelessness, depression in the way of sadness, or things that are out of your control, and it impacts your mental state whilst you're trying to recover. So not only is it helping with the brain, it supports cognition function, but also great for the gut and brain axis. So it improves, can improve, it's been known to improve cognition function in many situations, including antimicrobial, antioxidant properties, because it helps to reduce oxidative stress. There are some other things I've found as well, not just for sepsis, but this is not the topic for today, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention because it also helps with memory without altering your spatial working memory. And this is why I wanted to share with you this particular, these three mushrooms, because we represent a company called Organo, and we discovered wellness 14 years ago through this amazing platform. So we decided to be partners after being customers, so we can share and add value to each of you, and to be able to share and bring awareness to such an amazing products. And so we are a brand with a purpose. We help people create better lives and healthier lives. And not only the main thing, we keep it the main thing with Health Canada, we can state through the natural partner number we have with Health Canada, that it supports the immune system. It can help to fight infections and diseases. So many things that has been known to support the health, but so I want to bring that to your attention. So there's different ways that the mushroom is grown, either through artificial bags or organically grown like ours. Now, we are proud to say that we are natural and organically grown as Mother Nature intended, where others were still considered organic, are grown in plastic bags, artificial, because it's free of pesticides and herbicides. So both are organic, but as you can see to the right, it's yellowish versus dark brown. That means you get all of the nutrients because it's actually as Mother Nature intended. And we have over 32 plus quality certification that shows the source, confirms that the cultivation, it is actually organically grown versus plastic and tube grown. So the nutrients you get into your system is telling by where the source comes from. So you can Google it, you can go to a Healthy Planet, you can go to different places, you can find the same things in the way of the capsules, but the quality of what you're getting, the qualifications, even though it says certified organic, the source is very important. So for example, the actual herb grows in 3 stages: in the mycelium, the fruiting body, which you see here on the upper left, and of course the spores, which goes back onto the plum blocks to generate more, to grow more. So in most cases, those are artificially grown, cannot produce spores. So an unhealthy plant or unhealthy mushroom cannot provide healthy offsprings. So if you're thinking of the way your body absorbs nutrients, with our brand, you get 99% viability in your system. How can you consume it? Well, I love coffee, tea, and hot cocoa. You made us like capsules, but it comes in a variety of different ways, and it's infused into every single cup you get to consume every day. So you already have a habit of drinking coffee, tea, maybe hot cocoa like me, but you switch a brand with all the nutrients, not just an empty cup of coffee, tea, or hot cocoa, and you start feeling having an experience because everyone's body is different. Your body will never lie to you. Also, we have it in capsule form. So as you see to the lower left, you see the 3 different bottles. Those are 3 stages that the actual mushroom is harvested. So that is providing you with a lot more therapeutic doses, especially if you've been diagnosed with a condition, for example, sepsis or any other things that I mentioned before. But there's so many good findings through public medical library and other places where we are credible sites that we get these research studies of people who are consuming and actually having this experience. I mentioned before about the mouth, the teeth, the gum. We actually have the Ganoderma infused into toothpaste. I love it. I've been using this for 14 years. So it's free of, there's no fluoride. And of course, it helps with your healing your gums because Ganoderma actually helps with reducing inflammation. So imagine you're using a toothpaste that's healthier for you, no fluorides, no chemicals, and you're brushing your gums, taking care of your gums, of course your teeth is going to benefit as well, your tongue. And if there's a situation where someone has, a pus or some sort of a rash, sorry, a sore inside of the mouth, you're consuming something internally plus brushing your teeth, that's actually a win-win. So think of it as you making one small choice for a lasting impact, thinking about mindfulness, positivity through wellness with this brand that I'm sharing with you. These are the three I mentioned to you. They work actually on their own, or they work synergistically together. The only what I want to share with you is thinking of you making a healthier choice to add to your health journey. You may be doing everything right in the way of your health, or you may not, or you may have fallen off the wagon. No time like the present to consider something for your body, something for your mind, because you're your biggest investment. You invest in your health, no matter what dreams and goals you're pursuing. So Ganoderma supplements can be considered a passport to holistic wellness because I mentioned before, it's a food supplement. It has so many benefits, but also it has medicinal properties. As I mentioned before, the different stages. This is the one I actually fell in love with. This came on our brand about 2 years ago. And this has the only one on all of the products available that has all three. Some have two, some have one, and has both all the Ganoderma, which is reishi, lysamine, and cordyceps, and so many. I just had one this morning. And so many benefits. Now, if you're not a coffee person, it's a tea. The tea actually it's caffeine free naturally, but also has the reishi and the cordyceps and lots of nutrients in a simple cup of coffee or tea. So as we wrap up here, I just want to let you know, and we're so excited that the Organo, our company, is offering free shipping and orders online of over $50, so Canadian $50 or US $50, free shipping for a limited time. You can actually give yourself a challenge. I'm putting it out there for 30 days, at least 30 days, and switch your brand, drink it exclusively, pay attention to your body, and see what happens. The reason I say that when I started consuming, I'm generally healthy. 3 weeks, notice my allergies didn't trigger after 21 years. Thought it was a fluke. Continue drinking that 1 cup a day, 6 months, nothing again. It's been 14 years. That's my story, not sepsis, but I'm sharing you my story. And I noticed that these things have not reoccurred. For me, I love the taste because for me, it's all about taste. And if it doesn't pass my palate, no, 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 I'm not having that. So we love all of the things about Organo. And I'm so thankful that I'm able to share this with you. Are there any questions you may have as we reach the conclusion of this Zoom call? And while you're doing that, I was actually going to read the information on the chat. All right, I'm seeing I'm not sure who the person is, but it says my son was 19 hours old when he passed away from airborne viral. I'm so sorry. My condolences to you. May his soul rest in peace. This is unfortunate. This happens. It's more real than we realize. So thank you for sharing that with me. We do appreciate that you share that from your heart, because that shows your vulnerable side that you share with us. And then also I'm seeing here too. Okay, so the question here about your tooth hurting. So, I'm sorry you're having the toothache. Of course, you've seen your dentist, but if you have the able to get access to the toothpaste, I can tell you the last time I had a toothache was I was in my teens, but I've been using this religiously for I think 14 years, going on to 15. So, give it a try and see what it does for you. Any questions or maybe feedback you'd like to give in the way of what we discussed today?
Good night, Kerry-Ann. I just wanted to good night, everybody on the platform. I just wanted to say that my tooth is hurting me because I just ate like a grapefruit and it was cold. So I just took three of the spores. So
Hmm.
now I feel like I don't feel
Oh,
that sensitivity right now.
wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
And I was gonna take a
Yeah, the sports
Tylenol
is my
3. It saved me from
Yeah,
taking the Tylenol, so
I tend to stay away from pills.
yes.
Even if I have a headache, I'll take my spores as well. So I believe this is what you're referring to.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
my go-to. And I'll share with you too, because when I first started consuming the products, I'm not a pill person, so to speak. I don't want
Hmm.
the pills. I started consuming the beverages, and I noticed I actually I had a condition with a pain on my pelvis. For about 2, 3 weeks. It was really bad, and no one knew what the problem was. And I said, okay, let me just try this capsule. I took it for 4 days straight. I had an appointment to see my OBGYN. I took, I think, 2 months. I had to wait and came back. They found nothing. They didn't know what it was. It was either exploratory surgery, pain medication, or nothing. I said, okay. But in the meantime, whilst I was waiting for my appointment, sorry, to go see the OBGYN, my results, I was taking this. And that's how I
Hmm.
started taking my capsules. So everyone has a different experience. So thank you so much for sharing, Maria.
Sure.
I'm very thankful this came into my life. Timing is never right. Um, I was looking for something from my aunt who unfortunately passed away. She had two terminal illnesses, and this was shared with me 3 weeks after she passed. So I know that is a reason in my life that I have to share with everybody else that I'm connecting with, like yourself. And if you know better, you do better. So for me, I decided I'm going to share it with the world. And so thank you for being a part of that. You are all precious people, and you took your time to be able to come on the call, to be able to hear what I had to share. And I do appreciate each and every one of you. So I want to give the night back to you and your family. Have a great night. See you again next week. If you have an idea for a topic, please feel free to send me a message, and I would be more than happy to cover that for you.